The Mayans were very religious people, and their beliefs permeated their everyday lives. These people's entire existence revolved around their gods. The Mayans were a polytheistic society, meaning that they worshipped more than one god. Some important gods include Kini-Chau, the sun god, Chak, the rain god, and Yumkax, the god of corn, who is usually depicted with an ear of corn growing out of his head. The gods were believed to have created the world sitting atop a giant turtle. People also had animals associated with them, as it was thought that every person had a spirit animal whom lived and died together.
There was also a god Bakad who ruled the four corners of the earth. The number 4 was prominent in Mayan mythology. The earth had 4 corners, many gods had 4 forms in which they could appear, and the 4 cardinal directions were important as well. The gods could be kind or cruel and destructive. The Mayans believed that the only way to survive was to appease these gods. The Mayans also believed in the idea of a heaven and a hell, similarly to many monotheistic religions.
While they lived, the Mayans tried to please the gods in every way they could. They believed that the gods were nourished by blood, and that if they were happy and well-fed, the world would be in harmony. In order to keep the gods happy, they held bloodletting ceremonies. Men and women would pierce their skin and bleed onto strips of paper, which they then burned. This accomplished 2 things. First, they believed that the smoke would carry the blood and their prayers directly to the gods. Secondly, they believed that the trance-like state they went into due to blood loss would allow them to communicate with the gods as well.
The Mayans also performed sacrifices as a way to please the gods. Animals were the usual victims of this, but humans were occasionally thrown into the mix as well. People were painted blue before their death. The Mayans did not like to sacrifice people from their own cities, so wars were often waged with the sole purpose of obtaining captives. The practice of sacrifice goes along with the common Mayan theme of death and rebirth. Both of these ceremonies were public and the whole community participated. However, the Mayans also worshipped individually. They prayed and burned incense every day, and the hope was that the gods would be perpetually pleased with them and allow them to live healthy, prosperous lives.
Pyramids were an integral part of Mayan religion. They were used as temples where rituals were held. Some were tombs of very important people like kings. Their bodies were allowed in the pyramids because kings were thought to be descendants of the gods. Pyramids were very tall so that people could climb them and feel close to the gods as they worshipped.
Let's review! The Mayans believed in a life after death.
Their gods ruled the earth, which sat atop a giant turtle.
They built pyramids to honor these gods, which were sometimes used as tombs for kings, since they were supposedly descendants of the gods.
Bloodletting and sacrifice were 2 important ways that the Mayans worshipped.
People bled onto pieces of paper to be burned.
People were considered to have companion animal spirits who shared their fate.
The idea of death and rebirth was a prominent theme in Mayan mythology.
Individuals worshipped by lighting incense and praying.
There were many gods, such as Yumkax, who had corn growing out of his head.
The number 4 was important in Mayan mythology.
Thanks for watching!